Innovation is as much about managing innovations and managing the introduction of new technology or the introduction of new processes. It is also about managing reorganization. It's about making sure that your organization adjusts to this new standard at the cost of being inefficient. Now, it's exactly the point where we spend too much time focusing on the innovations itself. When we discuss innovations, it's always about technology. It's always about features of products. It is about how a particular process will work. Where we should be concerned about how we're going to get it to work in our new organization, because we assume a few very important things. And as you know, Steven Seagal has this terrible, great movie called Under Siege that I shouldn't advise you to watch because it's really bad, but it has the most interesting sentence of all. It's assumption is the mother of all fuck-ups. Innovation gets killed. Innovation does not succeed because we make assumptions about the outcome and we stick to them. We don't prove them in practice. So the whole lean startup movement is about proving our assumptions. But when we introduce these lean startup developed innovations into our organization, we introduce a whole lot of new assumptions with that. So the first assumption is that the further development of the innovation is aligned with business objectives. Hey, we did this to make it more efficient. We did this to improve. This is our future market. It's not aligned with our business objectives. Business objectives focus on today and tomorrow, not on 3 weeks from now. So it's aligned with a potentially strategic objective. You know, we need to be ready for the market of tomorrow or next week. But it's not actually it's usually not a defined strategic objective. We focus on business objective, we focus on today's KPI. We also assume that capacity for further development is guaranteed because an innovation looks successful in the experimentation phase or even in the early scale-up phase. There is always competition on capacity, on time and money for further development of everything. If you've ever worked in an agile development environment, you know that managing the backlog of your agile release train or your agile scrum of scrum teams, you will know that there is always a fight for capacity on building new features. Innovation is the least proven valuable stuff that fights for a place on this capacity and budget line. So this is also why in the word cloud, we found out that budget or lack of resources is a problem in innovation because we assume that there is capacity for further development, but there usually isn't any. We also assume that line management is enthusiastic about change. It's not, because we push line management to give us the biggest bang for the buck. And change brings cost. Change brings disruption of an efficient process. So we really don't want change. Even though line managers will come up to you and say, this is a fantastic innovation, I really love this technology, it's going to be big, they don't want it in their department because it will create change and they will not make their targets. And for the same reason, senior leadership, we believe if they will show a positive interest in gradual growth, they want big bangs, short decision making, they want fast results. These people, senior leadership, are about big blobs on the horizon. And when you're in the experimentation phase, innovations have a big promise. And they're interesting for senior leadership because they have potential. But when you start growing them and building them in this scale-up phase, things get slow, things get tacky, things get tedious. You're being stopped. You need to, fine-tune stuff. And you move from explosive potential to gradual growth and slow process. And senior leadership is then not so interested anymore. This is all understandable, and it's nobody's fault, but this is how we've arranged our organizations to work.